She entered the studio. Her face was sad. She walked heavily. You didn't have to be very sensitive to realize that this little girl did not want to be in the studio. She's 5.5 years old, and I had no idea what happened to her prior to coming here. So I just put all my agenda aside, not that I had much agenda, but I knew that what I need to do is actually tune into her, try to put myself in her place and see if I can be of any assistance, not as her piano teacher, not as her teacher at all, just as someone who cares. As she entered, expecting me to stand up and take a bow with her, as we do at the beginning of every lesson, I was just sitting here at my piano, not standing up, just looking at her and trying even to match the level of my greeting to the place that she was at. So if she came sad and heavy, instead of saying, "Hi, how are you?" which is completely out of sync with where she was, I looked at her, and when I felt that I can say a word, which took some time, I said, "Hi." She looked at me, surprised. That this was not the usual hi, which I usually welcome her with. I was still sitting. She walked towards me. She looked at me. And then she put her hands on my lap. I was very surprised. Her mother wanted to explain, and I just, behind my back, I was signaling with my hand that it's better not to. Just to let the moment unfold what needs to happen. We spent a few minutes in silence. I put my hand on her head, thinking that if she doesn't want my hand to be there, she will actually move. But she did not move, and instead, she reached her hand to touch my hand, very, very gently. Almost like she guided my hand to stroke her head. It meant a lot to me. I had no idea what her mother is thinking, and thought maybe she thinks it's a waste of time. What are we doing? This is not why I'm paying for a piano lesson. But maybe she did not think all of this. Maybe I was worried that she thinks like this. And I knew that if she's going to say something about it, I will explain later the preciousness of this moment. We were like this for maybe 5 minutes. And then she stood up and she went to the piano. She didn't take a bow, as usual. She was just sitting at the piano and letting her fingers just move very gently. She didn't play any piece of the Suzuki repertoire. She's in book 1. She did not play anything. But she just let her fingers walk on the piano, making some sound. And every now and then she looked at me. And I was just sitting there listening to her, not trying to join her as we do in the lesson, not trying to say, okay, let's take a bow. I really made a point that I'm there with her and for her. After making a few sounds, very gentle sounds, slow sounds, she looked at her mother, she looked at me. I had no idea what's going to happen. No idea. I was prepared for almost everything. I was even prepared to finish the lesson at that point. She looked deep into my eyes. I looked back. I did not say a word. She did not say a word. And then all of a sudden she jumped on her feet and she said, okay, let's take a bow. We took a bow. We sat at the piano. She sat at her piano. I was sitting on my piano. I didn't say any word. I played a few songs with her. The time went by. At the end, we stood up again. We took a bow. And we were just about to leave. Just before she left, she already got to the door. And just before she left, she stood up for a minute. She stopped. She looked at me. She ran towards me. She hugged me, gave me a big hug, a big, long hug. And she went back to Mom. And off they left the lesson. What a gift. What a gift she gave me. And what a reassurance that we only need to meet the student where the student is. All the rest is happening by itself. So in other words, you might call it trusting the process, trusting the life force that Suzuki Sensei was talking so much about. And for me, being a teacher, a Suzuki teacher, for all these many, many years, it's a reminder why it makes me so complete. And why do I have this passion to continue teaching for so many years? Because every lesson is different. Like every child is different. And every parent is different. And my role as a teacher is to make myself different in every moment of the teaching. Enjoy your teaching.